There's a parking area at the city center,
Right.
where there's like a shopping area right.
Yeah, we went to the Union Club for the wedding, and they had the Super Bowl trophy down in the showcase.
Very cool.
The manager, the guy at the table, is the father of the bride. He's a huge Eagle fan. They took it out, let him hold it, man. Took pictures.
That's cool.
One of the owners are members of that. I mean, this club. I mean, I was there for a wedding, but the members of this club are like elite, and he's part of that. He sits on that board, and so the trophy was sitting in the showcase.
Very cool.
That guy he was freaking out, man.
It was.
All right, call to order the meeting of mayor and council. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you will all rise for the invocation by Councilman Santos.
God, I pray that you grant us grace, intelligence, and wisdom so that we may please you. I put everything in your hands today, tomorrow, my life, my safety, my home, my trust, my fears. I trust in you and you alone. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
may be seated. Okay, as a reminder, tonight we do have an executive session following our regular meeting. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay, we have two sets of meeting minutes we need to approve. The first one is from 9:27. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept the motion to receive those minutes.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion from Councilman McCoy. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, it's unanimous. We also have the meeting minutes from October 11th. If there are no questions or comments on those, I'll accept the motion to receive those minutes.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, from Councilman McCoy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, it's unanimous. All right, do we have any public comment tonight?
We have some people listed on the sheet. I just want to verify that they want to speak for public comment. I have a Nicole Riddick. Oh, no. Not just kidding.
No,
That was quick.
Jay Milligan?
Milligan.
Milligan? No, you're just here for the meeting. Got it. All right. We do not have anyone for public.
Okay, very good. It's 7:02. Do we need to wait till 7:05?
No, we didn't do it that way.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and close
Correspondence?
correspondence, please.
No, sir.
Okay, we have no correspondence. All right, following our agenda. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll close our regular meeting at 7:02, and we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to our city manager.
So we have a gentleman here from Sussex County.
Okay, we're going to invite up Mr. Mike Jones from Sussex County to walk through the community development housing presentation for you guys on the application that we need to sign, if you approve.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome, Mayor and Council. Glad to be here this evening. Really appreciate it. My name is Mike Jones. I'm a community with Community Development Housing in Georgetown. Been in your town a lot here lately. But just go and say that my office applies and administers the county development block grant program in the towns and cities in all the county. We've been working with Seaford for many years. The CBG program uses funds from HUD. They're allotted to Delaware State Housing Authority through Sussex and Kent counties. we apply for the funding on a competitive basis. That's competitive with Sussex against Kent. The purpose of the funding is to assist low to moderate income residents housing located in related issues. Our department of the CBD program is to hold a public hearing to give the opportunity to explain our program, which is what we're doing this evening, and giving an update. The most importantly, to give our citizens and local leaders a chance to have input in the upcoming application. Basically, we do mostly for Seaford is just do housing rehab. That's what we do. It's what we've been doing for years for you guys. Some of our programs. Our program is you have to be 80% of low AMI as far as medium income. That's within our guidelines. Also, you have to own your home. Your taxes have to be update as far as the county and its town taxes, and you have your insurance has to be up to date. As far as the income guidelines or income, as far as one person can earn up to $47,000 a year. Two people, $56,000. I mean, two people is $53,000. It goes up approximately $6,700 a person after that. For 4 people, you could earn up to $67,000 and still apply for our program. Historically, like I said, the majority of our funding is for housing rehab. In housing rehab, I'll talk about that is doors, windows, roofs, floors, plumbing, electrical, anything to do to the house. That's what we do. We have to put a lien on the property. The lien on the property means that is we don't stop anybody from selling the home. We don't take a home or anything like that. Is we're out here to fix somebody's home up for them to live in their home. If you wish to sell it after we do the work, you have to pay back some of the amount. If it's under $15,000 you spend, it's a 5-year lien. If it's over $15,000, a 10-year lien. So that's the way it works out. So we tell homeowners up front with that. Sometimes we get a little bit of kickback from older homeowners, which is understandable, to explain the lien to them. So it's what HUD makes us do. That's the rules that we got to go by. Just give an update on Seaford. Over the last 10 years, Seaford received over $717,000 from us to do this work in town. And in this day and time, it sounds like a lot of money, but with this way everything's going up, it's not as much as it used to be. And we've done over 40 households with that amount of money. This year alone, we received over $105,000, which is the most we've ever received for one town in the county. This year alone, which we're doing a lot of work. We've done up 6 houses already this year. They're written up, ready to work. Some of them have had work done to them. So that's what's going on right now. That's why I said I've been in your town a lot here lately, and that's why we've been around quite a bit. Our most important thing is have people on a waiting list. Is have enough names on a list. And you guys have worked with us so great, your town and your administrators here. We have 10 people on the waiting list as of right now. That's after we've taken off 6. We still have 10 people on there, which we have to have 4, which we're in great shape there. But we're always looking for more people because even though we have 10, by the time you get to somebody who's been on a wait list for maybe 6 to 8 months or a year, they've changed their mind or they've sell their home or something happens. And it sounds like a lot of people. Sometimes it's not as many people as you think it could be. As I said earlier, the main reason why we're doing a public hearing is to allow the citizens, local people, to have some input into our application. And I didn't know if any of the councilmen or if anybody has any questions that I could help answer or anything you guys have or anything. Yes, sir.
Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you for being here tonight, and this program is phenomenal. We're just blessed to have it in our community. The people that do the work, are they volunteers or is
no?
It,
They're regular contractors. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And we go through a regimen of keeping very good contractors. I tell people that all the time that I've been doing this for 25 years, and we've had contractors. Some of my contractors have been with me at least 10 years. So now I don't just know the contractor, I know his helpers, I know his people, I know his subcontractors. You get to know all of them. And I like that because a lot of times I go into people's houses, they're elderly people. They're like my grandparents' age. Well, maybe it's close to my grandparents' age, old like that. And what it is I wouldn't want to put somebody into my grandparents' house that I don't trust.
Right.
You know, and I trust these guys. They stand by, they go through a lot to be our contractor. They don't get paid a dime until they get done. In this day and time, everybody wants that little 15–20% up front to get started. They don't get any of that. So they have to do all the work and do everything, pay for everything, before they get anything back.
Awesome. And the second question, on this list, you said you had, how many people currently on the
I have
list?
10 people currently on
10
the list.
people on the list. So is that first come, first serve? Is it based on
Yes,
necessity?
that's how-
One thing's more important than the other?
No, we go down the list by first come, first serve. Now, only thing would happen is somebody would come up with a list and they need a ramp, because they're maybe coming home from a hospital or from a rehab center or something like that. We would step them up and go ahead and take care of them people, because that's something that needs to be emergency done, so we can take care of that, which we do a lot of. And, or if you have a handicapped bathroom, maybe somebody can no longer get into a tub, we could take that tub out and put a shower in for them. And we would do that with some emergency money like that, above and beyond what we do, the money I'm talking about we got now, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
and that's something you guys, as far as you and in your town, if anything, I guess, happens, that's happening, and somebody is in need of something, call us, reach out to us. Be glad to work with you guys.
Councilman McCoy.
Quick comment, personally seen some of the work done by contractors and HUD homes here locally. I know one in particular had a fire, and some of the work came through, and it was phenomenally done, so kudos to you and your team.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Other questions? Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming tonight, Mr. James. The 10 that are in the queue, you said you've already done 6 this year. I mean, how many more do you expect to get through with the funds that, you said you had $105,000
Yeah.
and you did 6 jobs. I mean, how much would be left?
Looks
and how
like,
many more jobs you
looks
think
like we
you
easily could do 2 or 3 more jobs out of that 10 before the year's up.
And does that go calendar year or fiscal
Our
year?
year ends in July,
Okay.
so it goes from July to July.
So there's plenty of time left?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But I still need names, we're looking for next year, because that's what I'm here for, is for the next year's money. Right now, we're working on last year's money. When I come last year and ask for money, that's the money I'm working on right now. And when it comes, then what we're working for now is next July's money. That's what we're trying to get.
But you don't have any closed enrollment. You can enroll at any time.
All the time, all the time. Anybody can call, you guys don't have, you got applications here in the office, but they can just call our office, we can send it to them and work with the people, which we do a lot here in town.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Okay, and like.
Mr. J, could you come up to the mic, please? And
Mr. Jones, the question I have is, I missed the front end. When you say that you come in and repair, for people in need, and I heard the financial part of it, how do they pay that back?
It's actually time pays it back. There's no money paid back at all. As far as for the homeowner, they don't have to pay anything back.
Okay.
It's a non-interest bearing loan, a lien put on the property.
Okay.
If it's a 5-year lien, 20% of whatever it is comes off every year, and in the 5 years it's gone. And there's no payment at all. Our money comes from HUD, comes
All right.
down to comes to the county, then come down to the town, and that's how we're paid. That's how the contractor paid through HUD.
So if there's somebody in need of that, there's applications here in the city office, and they can call you
my office and ask,
directly?
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a super easy phone number, 855-7777.
That's a tremendous benefit. Tremendous benefit for those in
I
need.
encourage you anytime, call the office. Be glad to talk to
Yeah.
you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Milligan. Any other questions or comments from the public? Again, that's why we do this as a public hearing, to make sure the public's aware. And fortunately, in Seaford, we've kept the list pretty full every year, so we appreciate you coming through. So with that, we're going to close the public hearing. At 7:12, we'll reopen our regular meeting. And with that, I'll accept a motion if there are no further questions or comments.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to approve participation in the development of an application to the State of Delaware Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program to include the city of Seaford, and permit the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. Are any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
All right.
It's unanimous, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Thank
you.
all of you for being here today.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you being here. Okay. Next, we'll go to new business number 1. We're going to invite up Ms. Torbert to share the great things going
Don't call it a
on.
I didn't get her name.
My name is
At
Tracy
the pool.
Torbert, and I'm here to represent the board for SCSC. I just wanted to, well, even though they're not here, wanted to just give a quick update of the season. This year, we were able to accomplish some things at the pool. We were able to get new lightings in both bathrooms, and we also just completed getting them painted. We also, the tile and coping project has been completed, and it looks great. We do thank you for your support on that. Steve Cannon and his team did do a good job for that. This past season, we had 368 members that joined the pool. We employed 14 people. Those were all lifeguards. This past season, we were not able to get a pool manager. The board just kind of pulled together and picked up the pieces of those that the head guards couldn't do. We were able to successfully have a swim team and provide swim lessons to not just members, but non-members as well. An important part is the 60-40 agreement that we have in place, and this year our cost share portion is $5,000. So we will get that check to you guys for that. We were able to do some fundraisers. Chick-fil-A once again supported our pool, and we had their banner up there. They did make a donation, and we also did some other things with them. We were able to have a night swim. We were able to do, the swim team did the crab raffle again, and we had some other fundraisers that we did do around the pool. But all in all, we did have a successful season, and we just wanted to thank the city for their continued support of the pool, because we do get members from not just Seaford, but the surrounding areas as well that bring people here to the city. Any questions?
Wow, thank you for that update. I know, from where I live, I can hear the screams and the gunshots going off the start gun, I'm sorry, for the swim meets, right? It's great to see the parking lots full and the pool full with lots of families, and it's a blessing that we have volunteers that are willing to run it. So any questions or comments for Ms. Torbert for the pool?
I'm
Councilman
hoping
King?
you know this. We brought this up in our liaison meeting. What is the total capacity that's allowed in the pool? Like, how many people can be, is there a capacity? Like, how many people could be in the water at one time?
I don't even know that we would ever even get near that, and I don't
Okay.
even know what exactly it would be. I know there is one specifically for the pool deck, but I don't know about specifically in the actual pool itself.
Okay.
I'm sure it probably goes by something about, how big it is and that type
Okay.
of nature, but we've never gotten to a point where it's been even full capacity. Now, swim meets, that's where it gets, real heavy there, but they also utilize the outside of the fence area because they do concession stands as part of their fundraisers. Because our swim team actually joined again this past year with SSA, just so that we could have more members, or more swim team members, so that for the older, like the relays and that type of nature, so that they could participate more. So when we get like Mako's, they have a huge swim team that can get to be a lot of people. And parking can sometimes be a little bit of a, which is a good thing, right? Because the golf course is being successful this past season as well as the pool. And when we had swim meets, I know they utilized West Seaford mostly, which is, just a short walk, so.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Councilman McCoy?
Tracy, you mentioned 358 members this year?
368.
368, excuse me. Is that like around normal, more than usual, or is that just kind of?
It's a little bit lower than it has been in the past. We did have to increase our rates this past season, just slightly by like $10, $10. But I will say that we had to increase our rates because minimum wage went up and is going to continue to rise. So that really, we had to look at our finances and make sure we're covering our end of what we need. So that's why we did do the rate increase. But there's also, SSA still has, there's other, options as well. And some people have to choose, do they want a membership or do they want to do a family vacation or something like that. So I think that's just the trend.
Thank you.
Any other question? Councilman Santos?
Hey, Tracy. Can you talk about the cost to join right now? How much that is for
So we actually look at it each year. So this past year, and what we do is we do what we consider an early bird option. So you save a little bit of money. So we typically do that up until May 15th. And it goes by how many members you have in your family. So for one member, it could be 120 to 130, depending when you join. And then we actually have a cap. So at 5 people, and you have to reside in the same household. So it's like, say, a spouse and their a husband, wife, and their 3 kids. We actually capped it off. I want to say it was at $575 this past year. But it depends on when you join as well. And like I said, that could change year to year. It depends. We usually try to set our rates in January, February timeframe.
The reason I ask is because if you guys are not near capacity and you guys are raising rates, I mean, in order to cover some of your costs, another way that could also be done is to lower the rates so that more people are able to afford to go and join. It's it's no secret that everybody, not everybody, but humans are drawn to bodies of water. It's good for our well-being mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. And I whenever I was growing up, my family could not afford to send 4 kids to the swimming pool, and I did reckless things. I jumped in the Nanico, which is that's not good. So, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and we also look at surrounding SSA, our sister community pool, our sister pool, and even pools down on the western side, just so that we kind of stay competitive or in comparison with their rates as well. Not to say that we couldn't look at that, and we get calls consistently about day rates, and we stay away from daily passes just because it's not fair to our members that paid a fee for the whole season, and then you have these, and it's hard to gauge for our staffing, for day rates or like daily passes, how many guards we would need. We don't want to overload our guards. This past season, many of our guards were new guards, and they're 15 years old. Many of them, it's their first job. So it's a big responsibility that we're putting on them. So, we have to keep everything, I think, in perspective, too, when we look at lowering rates, because we also don't want it to be so many people in the pool that it's overwhelming to our guards.
Tracy,
Thank
thank you so much. I see
Thank you,
Mr.
Tracy.
Pickenpaul out
Good to see
there
you.
in the audience, and Mr. Pickenpaul and his family ran the pool for years too, and without the volunteers running the pool, we wouldn't have a pool. So thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go on to new business number 2, and Mrs. Newcomer is going to walk us through.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
You have in your packet this evening a request from Balsamo Real Estate LLC to purchase land. They currently own land in Ross Business Park. Just to acclimate you to where we are referring, the top left of that picture, you'll see Lang Johnson and Tall. Just south of that is the grass area that Balsamo owns, and the 2 yellow areas, you can kind of vaguely see the right-of-way where we cut the grass now. I wanted to point it out in this manner. You can see it a little bit better as this, but I wanted to be able to get you acclimated where we were referring. It's 0.47 acres that they're interested in purchasing from us for $2,000. Just a little bit of background: when the lots were laid out in the 90s, it was the late 90s, I believe, they were laid out before the roads were laid out. So this is sort of orphaned land that we've just been maintaining for years. They've come to us with the request because it will increase their buildable area. They are looking at developing this property. It's sat vacant for the entire time they've owned it. So we are hopeful that we'll be able to see some jobs created out of that. They've submitted the letter that with a sales contract, once we've executed the LOI from tonight, if council agrees, they'll have a sales contract drawn up within 5 days, and then settlement would occur 30 days thereafter, after that sales contract was executed. So I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions in regards to selling this less than half acre of orphan land. Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Trish, I guess it was a few months ago that David Ball came in and requested the city of Seaford to give him a piece of property. Similar situation, we were maintaining it, cutting it. Then we gave that to them and they subdivided it out and sold it. Why don't we do this as a sign of good faith to this particular person that's going to expand, bring jobs to the city of Seaford? To me, $2,000 is kind of a minute, a very small number. So my question is why? Why even charge them $2,000? Why not just give it to them?
Certainly, council has that option. We were approached and they offered to pay, so we were bringing forth their offer, but certainly council has that leverage
Just
to make
curious, I mean,
that
I'm
decision.
just asking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Councilman Santos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little bit on the opposite side of that. I think that this is good. They came in here. They're not saying, "Hey, we want this free." We're paying $2,000. It's give or take half an acre. If they're paying $2,000, they're getting it 90% off. So it's really fair. Well, that's a really good deal on their part. I would also say that this, I would say that as far as the closing costs, we shouldn't have taxpayers pay for the closing costs. It should, if they're paying if they're getting this at 90 let's say 95% off, I think they can cover the closing costs. It's not that much, and I don't think that it should come from the taxpayers.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, there's lots of examples where we've given land away, probably half a dozen times in my tenure here. That the examples given was land that was not otherwise usable on its own. It's stranded land, the land that we gave to Kent Peterson for his development, David Ball. These pieces of property, this was a little piece of property that we had a right of way for a utility pole, yes, and otherwise was unusable. And this piece of land is very similar. If you calculate it out, it probably costs us $1,000 a year to maintain it, just to cut the grass.
Right.
So why not get rid of it? And I think the $2,000 will get, the closing costs will get eaten up in that, and those are from proceeds, not the taxpayers paying for it. So I'm okay with this as it's written.
Any other questions or comments?
I will say one other thing. We did run this through the Director of Public Works and the Director of Electric have all looked at this, and we will maintain the easement, but everybody was okay with it.
Perfect. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the request from Balsamo Real Estate LLC to purchase an excess portion of the right-of-way of North Market Street extended in the Ross Business Park, Sussex County Tax Map number 331-5.00-4.13 to be combined with the property adjacent Sussex County Map number 331-5.00-4.14 and permit the city manager to execute all necessary sale and closing documents as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Santos. Is there a second?
Councilman Henderson, I second.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Thanks, Trish.
Mrs. Newcomer. All right, next we're going to call up Mr. Mears to discuss the speed bumps and the deputy chief. He scooted down in the chair a little bit, so to discuss the speed bumps.
Yep, so we're bringing back, as you all are aware, we put in temporary speed bumps as kind of like a pilot on both Nylon Boulevard and Magnolia. And we ran quite a while now, and the deputy chief can speak to the effects that they have had.
So these speed bumps were installed around May 31st and just after on Nylon Boulevard, northbound and southbound lanes, and also a set on Magnolia Drive. They're set to be removed November 7th. Since installation of the speed bumps, our complaints for speeding in those two areas, which was, as some of you know, quite high, they have been significantly reduced. The only thing that we heard from that was basically the design of the temporary speed bumps. They seemed a little bit harsh, but we do recommend that consider installing permanent speed bumps on Nylon Boulevard and Magnolia Ave in place of the temporary, when funding is available. And once they're removed, we will put up our JMR rate system that we got from OHS through grant money to check to see if speeding increases or stays the same without the installation, and then provide that data to the city manager for his dissemination. Future consideration for temporary and permanent speed bumps should go through an application process. If they request, then a speed study would be done, look at traffic crashes in those areas, and compile that data for setting parameters for down the road based on the budget year, and set money aside over time. So, but that would, of course, come to council for each application process.
Certainly, one of the big complaints we heard was how rough those are to get over, and that a much bigger, longer, more gentler roll would be better. Is that what we're proposing if we bring them back to something different in structure, size than these?
Well, if I'm correct, some will probably need to be replaced.
Oh, yeah, so I can speak to that if you want. So these are just two examples. We would want something more permanent, asphalt type built in. They'd actually mill it out and then come back with a humped type speed hump.
How does that impact cleaning snow?
So this works a lot better, because if you look at the one on the right, that's the one in Beaver Dam. It's about 12 foot in width, so your blade gradually rolls over it. It's not such a harsh bump such as that. And those were the cheapest alternative to get something in as a pilot to try to see if it worked. I got a complaint as well that, hey, we can't ride 25 miles an hour over the speed limit is 25 miles. Well, it was a traffic calming measure. So for a permanent application, we would look for something like this. The other one was actually in Clearbrook Estates, the paver that I deal with. He said they just did those recently. It's more like 8 foot wide, so it's a little, not a general roll. So you can actually, you still have speeders go over this if they want to. You're definitely not going to slow them down as much on these as you would those abrupt type ones I have now, or we have now. But there are many other options of different things we could look at as well.
And is there a plan for specifically on Nylon Boulevard where they're going around the speed bumps?
So the only thing, we did temporary because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money, but you can see the white post on the picture to the right. You can see that white post that we put in. It's just a fiberglass post that was fairly inexpensive to try. So we put them in, and when they first went in the next day, someone had already pulled one out and rode around it. We put them back in, and they've been there ever since. So I think that has stopped it for now. But if we did put, if we go permanent, I would recommend probably like a concrete ballard or something. I think we'd have to put it in.
Well, I'll admit I was the first one to complain about speed bumps because I travel that road a lot, but I will also admit that the impact that they've had on slowing traffic down has been noticeable, and it certainly has changed. So it's changed people's driving habits. So comments, questions from council? Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In lieu of the fiberglass little knockdown things, would you consider a sign that would actually say bump?
We could, 100 foot or so before we put a speed bump ahead sign, I could put a sign there, or we could put.
That would.
You can see they have little reflectors there on both of those
Yeah.
applications. Yeah.
Because, you know, the fiberglass units aren't gonna
Oh, no, yeah.
last.
Yeah, they were temporary.
They'll get mounted or torn out
Oh, yeah.
or whatever. So more of a permanent sign that would, I don't know that you gotta say 100 feet. I mean, if you're doing 25 miles an hour, it ought to be, if you see the sign coming up, just to announce that there is a bump there.
Yep.
I think Cedar Avenue used to have did they used to
They
have
had
signs?
dips.
They had dips.
Yeah, and they had signs.
But they had signs at them. So, yeah, I would recommend a sign at the location, just so it's not a surprise.
Yeah. It'd be a
And
deterrent to go around.
and you, I think we were talking that it would be marked with paint to mark the bump.
Potentially. The one on the right in Beaver Dam, they have a thermoplastic striping, so I kind of like that. It's a little more expensive, but it would last longer.
So to clarify tonight, though, we're looking at also whether these are going to be permanent or temporary, correct? So that's part of the questions that council needs to consider. Councilman McCoy?
That's where I struggle right there, is that if I'm hearing you correctly, Burley, if we decide or consider a permanent speed bump and those modifications are not made to curtail speeding as much as the ones we have now, and the original plan was to have them was to curtail speeding, I don't necessarily see the logic in going with permanent speed bumps if they're going to go run over top of them anyway.
That is the dilemma.
I mean, I will say, and you know, Mr. Mears did a great job pulling these together. I've been through Beaver Dam several times, as probably many of members of council has. It will slow you down. It does have the effect appropriate for traffic. Does it bring traffic to basically a complete stop as the existing ones? No. You will roll over them, I'm going to estimate for you, 10 miles an hour or so. Or you're going to really go for a ride. So it will still have a traffic calming effect. But yeah, it is a decision that you have to make. This is the type of speed bump that gets placed permanently.
The big difference in Beaver Dam is you're going slow already because of
It's a
the
very windy
turns,
road.
right? And Nylon is a long straightaway, and you can really get up and get going. Yes, Councilman Holland.
I guess a question for Mike. Would it be fair to say that Magnolia is probably a bigger problem than Nylon Boulevard because of the traffic that goes out to Bel Air down that street?
The traffic down on Magnolia, one, you have a parking on both sides. The speed limit's already 15, so reducing it isn't gonna help. So some people perceive that the people are speeding all the time. When you have a narrow passageway, cars doing the 15, generally people are gonna do 25, that they appear to be going faster than what they are. So thus it raises your complaints based on perception. So having a speed bump there, whether it's temporary or one similar to what's at Beaver Dam Estates, would reduce people from exceeding that 15 in those areas. And it's pretty close to an intersection. I believe we got that one installed also, if I'm correct, on Magnolia.
That's kind of happened
About midway. You know, but doing something is better than doing nothing.
Right.
And being ridden over this temporary speed bumps we got, some of the complaints, what they've said, is not too far off. I mean, at 5 miles per hour, they are still harsh.
Okay.
Then you look at, you know, some people who might have, you know, a classic vehicle, ones that sit a little bit lower than an SUV, you know, there's concern there. These temporary ones will not take that abuse over time. So the cost of them, I'm not sure what a set is, but over time, if you're having to replace a set every year, could possibly add up to where a asphalt one would have maintained the test of time.
Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Chief, I have two questions. So what does enforcement look like on this road?
Enforcement, we have done enforcement out there when we can. The times that people have complained of the speeding is also during our highest call volume times. In the afternoon, after school, those are our highest calls for service. The likelihood of us getting an officer down there, generally we are lucky if we run 4 people on a shift.
Okay.
So this is a deterrent that allows us to
Sure.
not enforce and cause people some unneeded, when they commit something, unneeded heartache financially, but yet still curtails the speeding that happens on these long stretches of road.
Yeah, so with that being said, do you feel that the speed bumps have definitely worked. I see it. I see it. But I also see people, to Councilman McCoy's point, driving around it, right? I see motorcycles and everything just go around it. So if this is a deterrent, do you think that we're just moving traffic, right? So if I'm a driver and I know that I have to go down this road and hit these speed bumps, are we really having an impact with this and not enforcement and just forcing traffic in a different pattern as a driver?
You will force some traffic in a different direction, but where that traffic is gone, we have not received the amount of complaints that we did on these 2 streets in this experiment.
All right, thank you.
Well, and again, Nylon Boulevard is a walking path and a lot more people, a lot more pedestrians. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Burley, I mean, there's these speed bumps are engineered, right? I mean, you're not going to design them, or the city's not going to design them themselves. ASHTO and other organizations have a profile and a spec that gets tested to make sure that these things are functional and are a deterrent, and they're not going to tear equipment up.
Yeah, correct. We're not at that point yet, but yes, there are specs available.
Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments from City Council? So again, tonight, we're voting on whether we are going to do permanent installs of speed bumps, or they'll be removed in November sometime temporarily and be put back in.
Yeah, we gave the council 2 motions, and as the mayor stated, one is to make them permanent in the spring, request the Director of Public Works do that. If council's desire is to eliminate them completely, then the motion would be to end the temporary speed bump trial, and then we would go on monitoring speeding going forward. But the deputy chief outlined our process going forward should we have more requests for speed bump placement. And if council has no objections, staff would, with the police department and the public works department, go through the process outlined the deputy chief, go through the process the deputy chief outlined, and they would do an analysis of each request based on the volume of speeding, crash history in the area. They have the ability to put up this radar detector to determine if the speeding is appropriate, and it's an actual thing that's occurring, and then it would be based on budget if we could install them. One other thing we wanted to talk about, as council is aware, I'm sure, not sure the public, this is maybe for their benefit, we can't place these on state-maintained roads. We don't have jurisdiction over that. So if we have someone reach out on Shipley Street or Harrington Street, we got to work with them to say, hey, we don't have the control over that. So there's a lot of devils in these details on when we place that. So council has no objection. We would go forward working with any person that requested speed bumps or anything of that nature.
Okay.
Cindy, I got a question for Charles.
Yes, sir.
Have you even got a pricing for the permanent speed bumps?
Yes, sir. The Director of Public Works does.
Yeah, so all I can say is the one on the left in Clearbook was a little over $1,000, and then once you factor in signs and things like that, you know, we could be, you know, striping, that thermo striping, you could be up to $1,500 a piece.
So what is the temporary?
The temporary, there's about 600 with spikes and everything. You're probably 600 a piece. So.
And are they reusable? Could you take them and move them somewhere else, or they're pretty much done?
You're supposed to be able to, but they're beat up.
That's what I was saying. Yeah,
they're pretty beat up. I'm saying they're probably trash at the end. Unless we put them in a parking lot or something like that.
Okay. If there are no further questions.
I have one other.
Councilman King.
Thank you. We heard from the deputy chief, his recommendation. was to place speed bumps, the Director of Public Works, what is your official statement?
My official statement, I mean, I don't have a recommendation, so whatever you guys vote on is what I'm gonna do, so.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Councilman McCoy first.
Just one more. Deputy Chief, you mentioned that you guys get different statistics and analytics based upon being pulled over and different traffic analysis. Have you guys seen a decline since we put speed bumps in as far as speedsters or infractions?
One, we don't have the crashes we do on Nyland Boulevard or Magnolia. So that data is going to be inconsistent.
Sure.
And not really show anything to justify just based on that. We basically chose these with the amount of complaints, which there were numerous complaints
Sure.
that some of you had handled over a period of time. And getting an officers there, we would write a couple tickets at a time, but we couldn't be there every day.
Sure.
And, you know, to make it a safer area for both places, you know, we felt that was best locations to place it, especially in the long run of Nyland Boulevard. I know I've had vehicles in the past when I worked the road, you know, 60 miles per hour. That was not common, but it would happen. It's also a major thoroughway for people who like to drive suspended because they avoid where we're most likely going to be at, traveling from point A to point B on Stein Highway. So they will use that road as a thoroughway to get to the west side of the city.
I traveled the road Saturday afternoon, saw 2 officers, and they had pulled a couple people over, so they were doing a good job out there.
Thank you.
Councilman Holland? You're good. Councilman Santos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The feedback that I got from this at the beginning was half and half, but as time progressed, I got more positive feedback. The only negative feedback that I got maybe 2 weeks ago was a gentleman. An older gentleman said that he had back problems, and those speed bumps made it. When he went over there, it hurt his back a little bit. And so I am in favor of these because I think this would be a little bit easier on his back. Now, as far as those temporary speed bumps, when I drive a little car, a little Miata, and at first when I went over those bumps, it was tough. Now, not so much. Maybe it's because I drive a little bit slower. I don't know, but
Ta-da!
I probably go with they have been used and abused in the past 4 to 5 months, that they've worn down some.
Yeah.
I would not recommend hitting them at 25 miles per hour.
Now that
Miata might not survive.
now that they've gotten a little bit more of a wear and tear, maybe is it possible to use them as a pilot in other streets as well? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to request Burley Mears, Director of Public Works, to install permanent speed bumps on Nyland Boulevard and Magnolia Drive in the spring of 2023.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the
Okay, are
motion.
there any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Hall?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. And next, we'll invite up Mrs. Newcomer again to do the renovations on Spring Street.
Good evening. You have in your packet a proposal from GMB. As council knows, we are working on the property at 106 Spring Street to retrofit that property to bring Brim & Horn Meadery here to Seaford. We're excited and anticipate bringing those bids to council the beginning of November. But we do have a proposal from GMB, our city engineer, who's been working with us on this project to provide some construction administration services when we do go into those bids, to be able to answer some of the, if there's change orders, if there's RFIs that are submitted, or any kind of questions on design from the plans, to be able to be that interface for us.
Any questions for Mrs. Newcomer? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from George Miles and Bird for construction administration services for the renovation to 106 Spring Street with funding provided by the Hotel Motel Tax Reserves as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Santos. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman McCoy seconds. Any questions on the motion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Caught me sleeping.
Yep.
What's the balance of the hotel motel tax reserve fund?
June and I looked at it a week ago, and it was just over $400,000, sir.
Pretty significant.
I can't give you an
Yep.
exact.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
All right, unanimous.
All right,
Thank you very
thanks.
much.
Thank you, Tricia.
Got off track there. All right, next we have bids for the compost building roof repairs. Is Director Mears is gonna,
Burley Mayor Show.
really is.
Proper guy.
Yeah, okay, so I actually have good news as far as bid goes. The last few times I've been up here requesting bid approvals, I've been over budget. So this one is actually for the compost building roof repairs. That building we still use for storage and maybe some in the future. We don't know what we might have to use it for, but we do want to maintain the building. And it has an acrylic, well, it has a plastic, I forget, you know, what the.
Translucent.
Translucent, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Wimper. And panel on there now, that it has a bunch of holes in it. It's, we've gotten our money out of it, but we now are going to replace it with metal. So we received two bids, one from Regional Builders and one from Quality Exteriors, both companies we worked with before in the past. I did have $70,000 in the budget for this, and it came in under that at almost $61,000.
Okay, are there any questions in regards to the bid on the roof replacement? Now I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I will make a motion to award the bid for the compost building roof repairs to the low bidder Regional Builders in the amount of $60,875 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr.
Councilman
Mayor.
McCoy seconds. Any questions on the motion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
And Councilman Santos?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Mears. All right, he'll remain standing so we can go over old business, and we're at the second reading of Chapter 11. That was the changes to non-resident sewer users. Are we going to go through any highlights? Are we,
I mean, we can hit the highlights. Director Mears presented last meeting. This just would raise out-of-town customers to 1.5 times the current sewer rate published in the fee and rate schedule. So certainly, Director Mears or I will answer any questions.
are there any questions in regards to this change? If not, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amendments to the Municipal Code, Chapter 11, Sewer, Section 11.7.6, sewer charges for existing non-resident users, and charge users reading out of the city limits 1.5 times the sewer rate published in the City of Seaford Schedule of Fees and Rates as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
And Councilman Santos?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have the second reading on Chapter 14 on the water. Same thing.
It's exactly the same language, except it's in Chapter 14. It just, the municipal code needed to be updated so that it follows to the fee and rate schedule.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amendments to the Municipal Code, Chapter 14, Water, Section 14.4.6, water charges for existing non-resident users and charge users residing out of the city limits 1.5 times the water rate published in the City of Seaford Schedule of Fees and Rates as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Councilman McCoy seconds. Any questions on the motion? Again, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King.
Aye.
Councilman McCoy.
Aye.
Councilman Holland.
Aye.
Councilman Henderson.
Aye.
And Councilman Santos.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then we have the revision to the fee and rate schedule for water and sewer rates.
So this is the schedule and fee and rates that we presented at the last meeting, and we were asked to table it until it came back. So you'll see the date at the top is amended to October 25th. It would become effective January 1, 2023. And on page 3, it details the changes that would be made, not only the 1.5 times the published rate, but also Director Mears talked about we were eliminating the tail blocks in the water billing. So for very large customers, our rate used to go down over 667,000 gallons. This is only a handful of customers. Actually, it's 5 that fell into it last year. So this would go away. They would be charged at the higher rate, the initial base block rate, if council approves this.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Councilman King. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to the fee and rate schedule to revise, excuse me, the water and sewer rates that are charged to properties outside of the city limits and to eliminate the water rate adjustment for large users as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman McCoy. Are there any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King.
Aye.
Councilman McCoy. Councilman Holland.
Aye.
Councilman Henderson.
Aye.
And Councilman Santos.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, reminder of meetings.
So we have just a couple. The Halloween parade is tomorrow night, and lineup starts at 6 at Cedar Avenue and High Street, and step-off is at 7 p.m. Inclement weather would be at the fire department. Citywide Halloween trick-or-treating will be held October 31st, next Monday, from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. for children under 12 years old. And then the final thing we have is the first meeting of City Council in November will be on Wednesday, November 9th, due to the general election.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to committee reports with Administration IT. Councilman Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. The following meetings were attended by city staff. They attended a meeting with members of the Delaware Bicycle Council regarding grant funding opportunities for safety improvements. They met with the GMB design team regarding the OT Common Sec regarding the Western Sussex Business Campus Phase 2. Attended the DMEC board meeting in Smyrna. Attended the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department generator replacement pre-construction meeting with Barnes Electric. They met with representatives of the Church of God regarding a potential subdivision of the gym building. They attended a Christmas parade planning meeting with the Downtown Seaford Association. And they attended the quarterly golf course meeting with management consultant Atkins Management. Other works, they attended the bid opening for the compost building roof repairs. They attended the bid opening for the renovations to 106 Spring Street. They went to the warehouse fire and attended the debrief with the county school district and fire chief. And they attended the title held 70th anniversary celebration. They reviewed and they reviewed and executed the electric vehicle grant prior to submission to the SEU. For the IT report, they've been working on prep work, meetings, and downloads for major upgrades. And for the administration report, they attended they're preparing for the fiscal year 2022 audit. They attended the IBW certification election, attended the DMEC board meeting, and all other business is routine.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Police and Fire. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you an abbreviated report this evening. It is a full report, but in the interest of time and my voice, I'll try to keep it brief. So for total calls for the year, 4,071 calls for an average of 13.7 calls per day coming out of the department. Calls for the year in city, there's been 460 fire calls and 2,098 EMS calls for the year. Out of the city is 268 calls, and EMS calls are 1,135. with 76 assists from the fire department and 84 assists for the EMS year-to-date. So there are several significant events which we're probably all aware of. On October 12th, there was a working 2-alarm fire at 503 Harrington Street with a total loss of the structure, several damaged vehicles and equipment, and I might say that there were injuries involved as well. It's under investigation by the Delaware State Fire Marshal's Office. I don't know how long this is going to take, but there is going to be a post-action review performed so that we can learn lessons on how better to respond, how better to fight this fire or fight a fire similar to this, and ways to go moving forward. And it's not a critical report. There were many things that were done right, but an event like this deserves to have a post-action review. On October 16th, the motor vehicle with entrapment, right, I think it was right in front of City Hall, wasn't it? So just across the corner there. One person was extricated and transported to Tidal Health. On the 23rd of October, we assisted Station 71 for overpressurization of a large propane storage tank, and that was at 40 North Market Street. The tank had to be vented and a water curtain put up in order to wait to get the tank offloaded down to a proper level. My understanding is the tank was overfilled, which caused the overpressurization. Under apparatus, Tower 87 is out of service indefinitely due to heavy thermal damage from the Harrington Street fire on October 12th. Command 87 and E87-5 received light thermal damage for the fire, for the Harrington Street fire, but the units are still in service. It's more or less superficial damage. Some of the plastic pieces on some of the lights and some of the other plastic trim pieces were damaged. Under emergency medical services, all 3 ambulances are in service. There were 4 career firefighters and EMTs that were injured at the Harrington Street fire. All but 1 employee has returned to duty, and they're still hiring part-time EMTs. Lots of news and events. It is Fire Prevention Month, so there was lots of things going on for fire prevention. The state poster and essay contests were returned for judging, and trunk or treat fall events. I think there's more than one. There's a couple of them that are happening around.
I think there's 3.
Yeah, that are happening, but the one at the Ross Mansion on the 23rd was the one that's noted here. So I'll move on to the Seaford Police Department. You'll see the columns for year-to-date crimes with 2022 is what we'll concentrate on, for a total year-to-date complaints of 7,804, and you'll see the distribution below. And under all crimes, there were 166 crimes reported with 9 felonies, 44 misdemeanors, 11 violations, 1 civil, and 130 others. The clearance rate is around 83%. There's additional crime data down here. With a 29% clearance rate, and you'll see by the crime view chart the distribution, the days, and the times of days that this happened. Under drug crimes, There were 12 drug crimes, 8 adult arrests, and 4 prosecution declined. There was 1 search warrant issued on the 300 block of North Pine Street. There were 2 overdoses, and unfortunately, one of them was a fatality. Under traffic, there were 233 traffic contacts, resulting in 80 citations and 8 warnings. 6 DUIs. That's a huge increase from previous periods, and I'm sure the department's going to be watching that to make sure that's not a trend, or to try and take some action. 29 crashes, 2 injury accidents, 16 non-reportable, 11 reportable, 4 hit and runs, 1 motorcycle accident, and 1 pedestrian accident, which occurred in the Seaford High School parking lot. Under significant events, of note, there's an update at the top of the report there. It says update, thefts from motor vehicles in August of 2022. One of our CID detectives obtained arrest warrants and executed those warrants for a suspect who is currently detained at Sussex Correctional Institute for other similar incidents related to several complaints. He was charged with burglary, third on 5 counts, and attempted burglary, third, and theft under $1,500. The other significant event is which we ended up talking about quite a bit, simply because I'm in the industry. Is on October 17th, Seaford Police Department was dispatched to the GameStop located on Sussex Highway for a reported burglary, theft, and criminal mischief. Investigation revealed that an unknown suspect entered the building by crawling through an air duct through the rooftop air conditioning unit, and significant damage was caused to the ceiling tiles, and an unknown amount of items were stolen. And we had a brief conversation about the availability of burglar bars for these types of equipment, which is usually an afterthought.
That's right.
But so noted.
But it is an option. I'll move on to administration. The chief attended multiple meetings. On the 18th, the chief also attended the Sussex County Chiefs meeting, and they completed quarterly grant reports for diversion, VRTRA, and DEMA. That was also done by the chief. There was, the department also attended the senior tailgate event prior to the football game. Also think, did the chief not say that he went to the commemoration of the Hurley Field? I think there were people from the department that attended that. So, under training, fall firearms qualifications began on the 17th. Is that complete yet, DC?
Still working on it.
Still, so they're still doing, you were there tonight, right?
Actually, I was fortunately did not have to.
Okay.
The trial being canceled, so another.
All right, so firearms qualifications is still ongoing, and that concludes the report.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Codes, Parks and Rec. Councilman Holland.
All right, I'll start off with Parks and Rec. They completed irrigation repairs at Aquinas Park to help the water newly planted trees and shrubs. And they completed all sports leagues and cutting grass in various locations. And they organized a post-game celebration for Flag Youth, Flag Championships, and a big thank you to Subway Corporation. And they prepared the playoff brackets for the Men's Slow Pitch League Championship and B Division champions. And they held the 7th week of youth soccer. Final week is on 10/29. And they submitted the playground bid for Nuttall Park, advertised on 10/21. And they met with the site visit for Delaware Bike Council for potential grant funding for a feasibility study. And they had a great event for Friday Night Live, which was a big turnout. And that concludes the report for Parks and Recs. We'll switch over to code. They have issued permits, 345 issued in this year so far. And out of rental license, 1,652 issued out of 1,674 total units. And all their work is routine. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next we have electric. Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report has been submitted in its entirety. Since the last report, the crew have dug in the conduit and installed the anchors for the streetlights in the WSBC. Responded to 503 Harrington Street for wires being down in a structural fire. Nick Moore attended week 7 of 8 for lineman training, and they did the monthly substation checks. Our director had his director's meeting, council liaison meeting, and staff meeting. And he met with a resident on McKean Street about a problem and the B&A issue with Comcast, not on our end. Over the course of the next few weeks, going to continue to work in the WSBC on streetlights, continue to work in Bel Air multifamily, and set the streetlights in Melanie's Ridge. And off the menu, as I tend to do, Friday night, big football game, Seaford Laurel, go Jays.
Yeah.
Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
And Laurel.
And Laurel.
Yeah. All right, next we have Public Works, Wastewater Treatment, Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights from each department, starting with the Public Works Department. Employees received training on the new mainline sewer camera, and they actually put it into effect, which is a good thing. Curb painting is completed for the season. The team assisted contractors with replacing the pump at the Industrial Park lift station. Pump installation also is complete at the police department. The team continues limb piles in an attempt to tag the piles and reduce the size of the piles being left for pickup. Wastewater treatment facility is operating well and plant performance remains good. Pumps are now running off new control panels with more electrical work to finish up. Here's a few of the projects that's going to be taking place over the next couple weeks. Replacement of fire hydrants and installing valves on Harrington Street. Keep the plant up and running with 0 violations. Finish pump installation at the Industrial Park lift station. Repair cleanouts on the smoke testing list. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, it's 8:11. I'll accept a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Councilman Henderson, I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Good night.